the darkness that many of you are feeling that is out there is real. But what you fail to ask yourself is where that battle of dark and light forces, if you will, where that takes place in us. That battle takes place in us. And so we need to know what we are up against to win this battle. And I just named it for you guys. It is truth, freedom, and love that we find within ourselves as a mature spiritual being, as someone who owns their own soul self, their own connection to higher power, and their choice. And this is what is being tested right now by these dark forces in us. Our choice. Are we choosing to stay in our heart, regardless of what these outer distractions are? Or are we going to sell our freedom, our truths, our love for illusionary safety or comfort, so that we can go to restaurants and travel and buy handbags and cars? Are we going to sell that truth, that love, that freedom for these conveniences, for our comfort zone? Or the other extreme, are we going to completely check out, and go off onto conspiracy theories or all kinds of fantastical solutions, including aliens, including a second coming, including some kind of outer superhero force? Could be some of you believe in politicians being able to do that. And sell our love, our truth, and our freedom for not having to be responsible. Welcome everybody to our energy talk. My name is Jona Bryndis. As you know, I'm an energy healer, energy coach, and energy therapist. I help people through difficult times, transitions, and help them train themselves to overcome these things that are in the way of being able to feel themselves, being able to make healthy choices, being able to see truth. And today I wanted to come up with a subject that in the past, you can see this here on my YouTube channel, whenever I talked about evil, whenever I talked about dark forces, people got very frightened. And I think this was all just preparation for our times today. Many of you are recognizing that something is going on here. It doesn't matter where you're standing politically or with some of your views in regards to whatever the current polarity in you is. Yes, obviously most of us are being moved by these governmental mandates in our country. Some of us might lose their jobs over these mandates. Some of us might lose their house or have to, make big life changes. These things are pretty big for everyone. And it is only natural that when we feel at the will or at the influence of some kind of outer authority, that we go into this place where we immediately try to blame or to vilify something. Where we go into it's his or her or their or that's fault. And it's part of our human nature to do this, because for as long as we are feeling powerless, it is easier for our psyche to externalize that which is going on. And don't worry, I'm not going to tell you that it's all your own fault. That's not where this is going. I want to offer you a more differentiated view here in this energy talk, that when we have these thoughts, we need to investigate very clearly what it actually is that we are energizing in that moment. What is your opinion about this? How does this work within yourself when you see something on the outside that forced you to do something, and you go into this mindset that it's all his fault or their fault or it's because of that? How does that help you? How does this work for you? Here in our live chat, I'd love to hear your guys' contemplations about this, because this is important. We first have to investigate this from within ourselves. This isn't about whose fault it is now. I want to ask you what it feels like when you actually come to the conclusion, yes, it's all dark and it's all their fault, or it's because of that I cannot do things. How does that help you? Cindy is sharing something very important here. It underlines that you feel powerless. Yes, and it actually makes you feel like a victim. Now let's stay neutral here. What does being a victim or feeling like a victim, how does that help you? Does that bring something, maybe some kind of relief, that it's not your responsibility? Or maybe you get more attention from others, that, through their sympathy that they then express? How does this actually help to feel or to outline that we are a victim of something? Yes, Becky, it's right. Obviously, it's a feeling of being not in control. All right, and that's the human part in us. We all have this tendency to go into places mentally. All right, we need this for our own sanity, to find causation, to find a reason for something. But have you ever thought about how you energizing the fact that you're not in control, the fact that you are a victim, the fact that you are powerless, how that actually makes it even less likely that you could control or could change something? Yeah, it's a tricky thing here, guys, because we all do this. I don't want you to feel bad about this. But I need you to understand the true nature of darkness. I need you to understand the true nature of your humanness first. And this doesn't have anything to do with sin or anything like that. It has to do with what is, how we operate, and what we need to survive. We have needs to survive. Physical needs, obviously, emotional needs, intellectual, mental needs, social needs, and spiritual needs. And some of us who've trained this already in them, also energetic needs. But one of the biggest powers that come out of becoming aware of these needs is the choice to say, yeah, this work that I am in, I might be losing this right now but this was a crappy job anyway. Yeah, because I wasn't paid well, or I wasn't even able to go and take care of my most fundamental needs, such as food, or go and take in bathroom breaks or something like that, or my boss was a really sort of narcissistic type. Yeah, that was sort of just bullying me around, or my co-workers, or yes, I might be, standing in front of the challenge that I have to find a new job. But is this actually something, that is bad for you? In those moments, our psyche obviously experiences every kind of change, every kind of challenge, as negative and wants to have some kind of reason for that, that points to the outside. All right, this is absolutely normal for us. But we got to understand that when we go a step deeper, that there is a part in us that actually can change things. Not so much about maybe losing the job. Yeah, although right now, those of you who might be losing your job because of the current mandates, all right, I recommend all of you guys to get this in writing, yeah, and not to quit, okay, but to let yourself get fired, because the situation could change very quickly here within a few months, all right. But even if you feel this like it is a good riddance, yeah, let's say because the job wasn't really healthy for you anyway, or it wasn't even meeting your needs, okay, there is a part in us that resists change. And that part is something that we often call ego here. It has to do with our comfort zone. It has to do with us just, even if it's toxic, even if it's not good for us, to just keep things the way they are. And when we start talking about dark forces now and what it actually is that we are being confronted here, it is important for us to go all the way and say, okay, what in me is actually challenged here? What in me is feeling powerless? What part of me is the part of me that is resisting all of this? Do you guys know which part that is in you that is resisting right now, that is experiencing that which comes in from the outside as challenge, problem, darkness, evil? Yes, it triggers something in us. It triggers the powerlessness in us, and that has an effect on our nervous system. But besides that, there is something else that is being triggered. Yes, Cheryl, your ego. In what way? In what way is our ego challenged here? And I'm not just referring to the corona situation. I'm referring to any situation that produces a challenge for you. A learning experience, if you will. What is challenged in us? That resistance. What is it resisting? It is resisting, obviously, the helplessness to see alternative solutions. Okay, let's keep that in mind. It is resisting the fear. Yeah, the fear of perhaps not being able to survive. Yeah, that is, though, just a thought, if you think about it. Yeah, at the moment that a challenge arises, it is a thought. Oh, I might not survive, or oh, I might lose my job, or oh, I might not be able to pay my rent. Oh, I might lose money. Oh, I might not be able to travel. Oh, I might not be able to buy the designer handbag. Oh, I might not be able to go to my country club. Oh, I might not be able to see my children. These are all things that we have as these fears in us that we are resisting. And Cindy, I liked what you said about the creativeness or the creativity of not being able to see alternative solutions. Would you guys agree that there always are alternative solutions? Who agrees that no matter how dire the situation looks like, that there is always an alternative somewhere, whether we can see it at that moment or not? Yes, Cindy, you're getting there. It's resisting the fear of the unknown. All the what ifs. That is what we are resisting. We don't want to go into the what ifs. But let me challenge you here, guys. Let's go into the what if. Okay? Is there, in your experience, always an alternative? I'm not saying better or worse, but there always is like a third option, right? There always is something else that we could do. But it is typically also what we resist the most. Have you ever thought about that? Are you guys honest enough to do this contemplation right now for a second and share with us what it is that you resist the most? Could be one or two words. To change my job, to end my relationship, to move to a different house, to quit drinking, to ask for forgiveness, to talk truth with my friends, to show my pimples, whatever. Give us a few examples, guys. Show us that it is possible in a moment like this where we're just talking about things. There's no real threat here right now. We're just challenging the what ifs in our heads, the fear, that which we resist. What do you resist? Changing your job. Yes, it's a good example. What else? To be fully truthful with myself. What would you discover if you were fully truthful with yourself? You resist uncertainty. Okay? I resist meeting my own needs. Making a job change, yeah, that's a big one for many of us. Let's go a step deeper, guys. What would happen if you had to change your job? If you actually did it? If you actually went on the job market, LinkedIn, whatever those sites are, yeah, or the internet, and look for new jobs. What about that is so frightening? Okay, the time it takes for me to recover, yeah. This is something that someone who has gone through something might look at as in like, okay, I survived it, but now I need to recover so that I can thrive again. But what about that is so scary if you think about it? This is already a very powerful perspective. Namely that all it takes is time. When making a job change, all it takes is to look for what's out there. It's okay. There comes the fear, starting over at an older age. Okay, I get that. I have that too. So what? What's different when you start over at an older age? Aren't you wiser? Haven't you learned from your mistakes? Aren't you so much wiser than you were when you were 20? There's nothing in this world that wants me to go back to when I was 20 or 25 or 30 even. Don't you have much higher chances now to set things right? To be smarter, to be wiser, because you know your own needs and wants better, you know better who you are. If I need to recover, am I not wiser now Have I not learned through the health challenge what is unhealthy for me? If I have to change my job, have I not learned what kind of jobs do not work for me, or what kind of bosses or companies do not work for me? When I'm about to leave a relationship or get divorced and I'm starting over again, have I not learned through that experience what doesn't work for me, or what I need to change? Isn't going into change something positive? Isn't choosing to change, regardless of the uncertainty? Of course, uncertainty is the main nature of change. So someone who says, I am afraid of uncertainty, says, I don't want to change. I want to keep everything the way it is because I like it better the way it is, than as if I would change it. As if the change that I could bring about. That's what we're saying. We're saying that we like it better the way it is because we're choosing it. Not having a choice is an illusion. We always have a choice. Yeah, remember the third option. There always is a third option. As opposed to yes and no, all or nothing, black and white. But if we're not changing, that means we are choosing the way it is. Not choosing is a choice too, guys. And let's do that arc now to darkness. Darkness is a pretty heavy word, okay? Because a lot of people immediately associate this with the devil or, demons or something like that. Let's stay neutral here again and just investigate this part of our own human nature. Namely that we all have this resistance and we all have an ego, and that's supposed to keep us surviving. All of you have survived. That's a fact. Otherwise you couldn't be here. Okay. But is our ego and that resistance to its change something that can make us grow? Something that can make us expand? Something that can make us thrive? Not necessarily. And this is where we need to do this inner investigation with ourselves. Because it might be us who are contributing to things not changing. Has it ever crossed your mind that it is all of us, each and every one of us individually, that are responsible, for example, for climate change not changing, for politics not changing, for the food industry not changing, for the school system not changing, for the banking system not changing? Why would they want to change if we don't want to change? How does can our health change if we don't want to change? How should our relationships change if we don't want to change our relationships? How can our financial situation change if we don't want to change anything about our financial situation? So from a metaphysical point of view, guys, this part in us, is defined as a darkness. And it's really important that you don't see this in this devilish way. Although, and this is the part here that I wanted to remind everybody of, because I have already done lots of workshops and talks about this on my YouTube channel. You can find this. There are indeed two darknesses in all of us. There are two darknesses in all of us. And if we want to understand what we're truly up against here, yeah, and perhaps even verify whether or not we're dealing with darkness here, we have to define the nature of darkness first. And you just learned one aspect of darkness, and that is sort of this inertia that we have, not wanting to change something. But there is another type of darkness in us, which is almost like the opposite, if you will, yeah? The other extreme. And that is not participating in anything that is going on and blindly hoping that everything will change, yeah? That everything is fine, that everything will just be, better tomorrow. Yes, that's right, Bella. How can these systems change if we do not change? We are the ones that elect these people. We are the ones that consume the products. We are the ones that put our money into the banks. We are the ones who want to go to restaurants, that choose to go to, functions, that choose to wear fashion, that choose to want to travel. We are the ones who do this, guys. Yeah? And the other extreme of not wanting to change, not wanting to give up our privileges or our conveniences, is to think that the others are going to do it all, for us. We don't have to do anything because God will change it all. It's like a teenage attitude. My parents will bail me out. My parents are going to pay for it. And this is now where I want to make this sort of big, sort of coming back to what the spiritual contemplation is supposed to be about. If one darkness comes to us as convenience, comfort, ego, materialistic gratification, fame, perhaps, or how other people see us. In its extremes, seeing ourselves, as humans, in this sort of, as a cog of a machine kind of perspective, yeah, and just sort of going with the flock, going with the machine, without any individual expression. Or the other extreme, which we could also call darkness. Oh, it's all going to be fine, and all we need to do is hold hands and sing Kumbaya together, and it's going to change somehow. Not really being present, not really reflecting on my individual choices that I'm making every day. Perhaps this second darkness, this, sort of lofty darkness, comes with constant complaining and constant energizing of what a victim we are. Because that extreme, the blind faith and the powerlessness, the emptiness of self, all right, comes with a constant energizing of victimhood. So why am I contextualizing dark forces in this way, guys? Because one of the big deceits and the big things that many people don't understand, yes, it has to do with religion, but only in a misunderstanding kind of way, is that when we talk about darkness, guys, we are not talking about some kind of outside evil force. It materializes on the outside, yes, and there can be people or humans or institutions that represent that, yes. In the etheric, we can see those forces, yes. But they are here confronting us with what? With our inner darknesses. And without that confrontation, and this is what can give purpose to everything, guys. Any one of you who has had children that are grown-ups now, or who remembers being a teenager or a young adult, knows that in that sort of individuation of the child comes a point where the child or the young adult needs to realize that their parents are not going to bail them out anymore. Hopefully, that is. Because without that realization and without actually beginning to live it, namely making your own choices, you're never going to be able to own your own choices. You're never going to be able to own your own successes. Yeah. So conscious parenting always includes at some point to release the child, the young adult, into its own individuated soul purpose, into their own choice. Legally, this happens at 18 or 21 here in most of our countries. But it doesn't happen in a harmonious way. And it doesn't happen with a lot of confrontation. Have you guys noticed that? It is a very painful process, actually, on both sides, for the parents to let go of the child and for the child to let go of this perceived sort of empowerment, through the parents. So we have to grow up. And growing up is what is happening right now. We are all forced to be confronted with untruth and with our inability to make choices on our own. And this untruth challenges us because we are being put into a situation where we are being told, like kids, in this patronizing way, that we don't have a choice. No, for as long as you live in this house, you need to do what I say. We're being told that we cannot think freely, because if we do, we get censored or we get reprimanded in some ways. Smear campaigned, maybe, or discredited. We're being told that we cannot see truth. We need fact checkers today. Mostly some millennial reporters that are paid by certain organizations that are needed to tell us truth. And moreover, it's not just the freedom and the truth that we are being told here these days that we cannot own, that we cannot do because we're just a cog in a machine and we're just like kids. All right? It's also the love for life, the love for another that is now at stake. And those of you who have a little bit of religious background, you might feel what I'm referring to. First, we need to understand that it is not one evil force out there. It is the extremes, everything that brings us out of our center, everything that brings us out of our own heart. Because our own heart is the gateway to higher power. It is the gateway to free thinking, to feeling love, and to freedom. All right, and if that gateway gets clogged up, it is only natural that we either gravitate towards this side where we just see ourselves as a machine, all materialistic, don't want to change anything because we want to keep, the conveniences that we have, or we completely check out and go into la la land with unicorns and waterfalls and everything is going to be fine somehow. Both distract us from our center. Both pull us into darkness through these extremes. And why is this relevant in a spiritual context? Because the darkness that many of you are feeling that is out there is real. But what you fail to ask yourself is where that battle of dark and light forces, if you will, where that takes place. Thank you for adding this here, Bella. I like this because I'm unable to cite scripture. In English, that is. I've never read the Bible in English, as a matter of fact. Yes, Becky, that's exactly true. In us. That battle takes place in us. And so we need to know what we are up against to win this battle. And I just named it for you guys. It is truth, freedom, and love that we find within ourselves as a mature spiritual being. As someone who owns their own soul self, their own connection to higher power, and their choice. And this is what is being tested right now by these dark forces in us. Our choice. Are we choosing to stay in our heart, regardless of what these outer distractions are? Or are we going to sell our freedom, our truths, our love for illusionary safety or comfort, so that we can go to restaurants and travel and buy handbags and cars? Are we going to sell that truth, that love, that freedom for these conveniences, for our comfort zone? Or the other extreme, are we going to completely check out, and go off onto conspiracy theories or all kinds of fantastical solutions, including aliens, including a second coming, including some kind of outer superhero force? Could be some of you believe in politicians being able to do that. And sell our love, our truth, and our freedom for not having to be responsible. The spiritual significance here is that of the situation where certain things were predicted, that people such as Judas, for instance, it links into the Judas story, would sell their faith, their love, their truth, their freedom, their choice to stay where they're at. And this is the part, guys, that if you feel that you are surrounded by evilness or by dark forces in whatever context, whether it's a religious or esoteric context or just energetic context, I want to remind you that it is inside of you where you find that third option. Darkness number 1, materialism, ego, comfort zone. Darkness number 2, actually they call this mammon in the Bible, Ahriman. Darkness number 2, let's just escape the whole thing and let's just build a new kingdom somewhere else in my fantasy. They call this Lucifer. Or the third option, option number 3, the Sacred Heart, the power of grace, the connection to divine love, Jesus in your heart, whatever you want to call this. This is my context for you here today for this energy talk. And I know it's uncomfortable to talk about this in this way, in this direct way. But I need you to understand that if you want to, let's not say survive, but if you want to get through this without losing your own heart, your own love, your own freedom, your own truth, your own light, you need to know what you're up against, and you need to call it by its name. You need to name it. You need to name the darkness that you are facing, and you need to name your choice. You need to make this a choice, like a confession, not the confession where you confess all your sins or transgressions. No, you have to confess yourself. And when you call on grace, we just did this beautiful grace prayer here in the daily energy prayer together. You need to know what you are doing there. You are saying, yes, I am part of this divine light. I am an embodied soul. And this is what I'm here for, and this is what I'm choosing. And you don't have to have all the answers. And yes, there will be many things you can't control, but that's okay. Do you know why this is okay? Because if you know how to tune into your inner knowing, into your inner guidance, into the place, the gateway to the divine Wi-Fi, as I called it earlier, your heart, then you will feel what it is that's standing in the way. And you will notice that it's oftentimes yourself who's standing in the way, or that part of you, the ego part of you, or the part of you that just wants to check out. Okay? And my tip for many, many years to all of my students is to practice this every day by challenging your ego. Do the one thing that you resist the most. Do it right away. And if you can't quite yet, then at least maybe prepare to do it. Yeah. And wake up at different times of the day to meditate, or to do certain things that you would never do at this time. Or simply be okay with not being traveling. Or simply being okay with earning less money. Preparing yourself for knowing who you are, what your needs and what your wants are, for that moment where you need to make that choice. So, yes, very, very deep words here. I hope I didn't scare you away. As always, we're basically sort of going a step deeper now by listening to and going into this deeper meditation. I picked step 1 of my Sacred Self-Healing course called Sacred Heart, to remind ourselves where to find this option. You can lean back now, close your eyes, meditate with me. Yes, I'm just going to sit here and meditate like you guys. So we're going to do this together for 20 minutes. So, guys, thank you, everybody. I see you again tomorrow morning, 11:30 a.m. Florida time, and on Fridays we'll do the energy update and tips for the next week following the energy prayer. I love you guys. Help me share this, help me get a bigger reach. Yeah, I need your help for doing that. Help us all to raise the vibration and bring people into more consciousness so that they can perhaps change their perspective, and with that change the perception that is needed to see what we can truly control. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.